Welcome back to another episode of Ground Zero Fitness Podcast. Today, Sam and I want to talk about quite an important topic because when most people start working out or start trying to get in shape, they don't know what to do. And most of the time, you'll just hear people say, okay, I'm going to go jogging or I'm going to go on a run 3 times a week, 4 times a week. I'm going to go on a run every day. And if you're trying to accomplish a fitness goal, maybe running isn't the best way to accomplish it. So why don't we kind of dissect this topic on cardio versus lifting and which one you want to be doing?
The first thing I want to mention is this isn't that we're anti-cardio, or we're not those trainers or coaches who are like, you don't need to lift, you don't need to run at all, just lift. Like, if you like running, it's whatever. But we want to get down to like the nitty gritty of, if you're just getting started, what is going to be more beneficial of your time? Because we always talk about, people always have problems with having enough time to work out, having enough time to do all of these new fitness things. So what's going to be the best use? Is that going to be getting in the weight room and getting your body stronger? Or is it going to be going outside and running and getting on a treadmill? So it's actually kind of a cool debate, and you hear it a lot. And there's some people that get very emotional about the lifting versus cardio debate. Some people love their running. Some people like us, who we just talked about before we started recording here, we don't not like running at all. Like, people experience runner's highs, and I don't know. I've never experienced a runner's high. I've experienced a runner's suck before. That's about it.
The cramp on the left side just killing you the entire time.
Yeah, and like, it's been a minute. Like, I've been running for a minute and I'm already cramping. Like,
I
I don't
feel
know why
you
I'm
on
doing
so
this.
many levels.
But like, so, if somebody was to come to me and we get questions in our DMs and we get questions from people around, and they say, hey, I'm thinking about getting started. What should I focus on? Like, or what's a good plan for me? And the very first thing, we're always like, what's your actual goal? Like, are you trying to lose a bunch of weight? Are you trying to look strong and jacked? Are you trying to just improve overall health? Are you looking to compete in something, whether that's a running competition or a powerlifting competition? Like, you have to know what the goal is before you can start um, comparing lifting and cardio and getting all emotional about it.
So let's talk about it. Like when the majority of people coming to you asking you that question, like, what should I be doing to get in shape? Most of the time, they're coming from a perspective of being overweight, out of shape, never doing much exercise to begin with. And their sole intention is just to like be in better shape, right? Like they want to get rid of that belly. A six pack may not be their goal, but they just want to lean down. They want to look a little bit more muscular, all that good stuff. And for majority of people, like the one I just explained, lifting is your best bet at achieving your goal of just getting in shape rather than cardio. And the reason for that is because strength training is all about like building muscle. And if you've never lifted before, you don't have an ounce of muscle underneath your skin. Like there's zero chance you have any muscle unless you're like a blue collar worker, like you work in a factory or something, you're lifting heavy all the time. Maybe you were raised on a farm, something like that. But for majority of people, no, like you don't have any muscle underneath you. So from a standpoint of getting in shape, why do you want to build muscle instead of doing cardio, or like why lift instead of cardio? And I guess I'm going to give you my perspective and then Sam can give you his perspective. But from my perspective, cardio it's a great option if your goal is to improve on your cardiovascular health. So if you're someone who just likes running, if you like improving your cardio, then go for it. Like cardio is your best chance at improving your cardiovascular health because you're training for specificity. But if you're trying to look good, why don't you want to do cardio? Well, we're not telling you not to do it in general, but if your main training methodology is to go on runs, it's not beneficial because you're not building muscle. What cardio does is essentially it helps you burn calories. It'll improve your cardiovascular health. But in terms of building muscle, you're not really building much aside from your legs. So if you're trying to look good, cardio will help you burn calories, but it'll leave you small. And after 3 months, you're going to be looking at yourself and wondering why do I still have a layer of fat on top of my skin? Why do my arms not look more toned or whatever you're trying to aim for? Whereas if you're lifting, you don't worry about you don't worry about burning calories rather than worrying about building muscle in the gym. So you worry about that calorie stuff in the kitchen, but when you're going to work out in the gym and you're lifting, you're worried about the behind the scenes muscle. So you may have a layer of fat right now, but 3 months down the line, you're building up a lot of muscle underneath that fat. And if you're on a calorie deficit, if you're losing weight, you're losing all that fat and your muscle is going to show. So instead of losing weight and looking skinny fat, you'll have a layer of muscle on top and you'll look jacked.
Which is all the more reason to strength train first. Yeah, I basically, he summed it all up there. And a couple things that basically that's my opinion on it. So, but there's a couple things like we were discussing before we started recording. It was like strength training versus cardio. Like what's going to be more beneficial to somebody immediately? Starting to run a bunch or getting stronger. So like when was the last time you actually, a person in everyday life, needed to run long distance or hop on a treadmill and run a long ways? Like that
what?
never.
Like, I've always had nightmares when I was a kid of a Tyrannosaurus Rex just chasing me from behind. And I'd always have this constant nightmare. So that's the one nightmare where I would have to run for my life.
So maybe that happened to you in a different life when you were caveman Kyle running around getting chased by T-Rex. But in today's day and age, like if somebody's chasing you, then after 30 minutes of running, they're either going to catch you and do whatever it is that they're planning on doing to you, or they're going to give up, so there's never really a need for that necessarily from a cardiovascular perspective. You don't really need it that bad. And when it comes to cardio, it's all about really just increasing your aerobic capacity, which is going to help you do a little bit more work in the weight room. But from a weight room perspective, you can take somebody who's never been in the weight room, never lifted anything, who may be struggling with everyday tasks. Maybe it's lifting boxes or moving a couch or whatever. And you can take that person, and within a couple months of lifting, regardless of their goals, it just makes them a more useful person for themselves. Like the everyday life gets easier when you get stronger. You literally get better at fighting gravity. So from hey, where am I going to see the most benefit in my everyday life? Strength training is 100% on that side. Whereas running, all you're going to do is go get good at running and burn calories and get really tired and get really hot and sweaty, but not get stronger. And it's really not going to, having more cardiovascular health, cardiovascular capacity doesn't really help you that much in everyday life. So if you combine kind of that perspective, and then you combine Kyle's perspective of if you build a bunch of muscle, boom, and you focus on that, and then you worry about cutting down, you're going to look a lot better. And when you start strength training, you're just going to become a more capable human being. I think like the obvious answers right here of what you should focus on, regardless of your goals, whether it's fat loss or building muscle or looking better or whatever it could be. So I think like you combine both of those, it's a simple solution there.
You just brought it down all like you took all the questions we kind of wanted to answer, but brought it into one statement / open-ended question. And it's like, what's the most applicable to your real world situation? Yeah. And I thought you wrapped it up perfectly to talk about like what are the chances that your significant other asks you, hey, can you move the couch from this room to that room? Or, hey, can you take the laundry from downstairs to upstairs? Or, hey, can you move the desk from upstairs? Whatever. And it's like, if you do cardio, dude, you're going to be just as strong as you were before. You don't have any
Exactly.
muscle. That desk is going to be just as heavy as it was 3 months ago. But if you're lifting, yes, the desk is heavy, but now you're so much more capable to lift it down a flight of stairs or up a flight of stairs and decrease the chances of injuring yourself just because you built up the muscles to protect every joint you're using along the way.
Exactly. I'm gonna try and draw this together into a little bit of a story. But like say your wife tells you that hey, could you please run to the store and get some groceries and then come back? It's like, you're probably not going to run to that store, actually run to it, right? You're going to hop in your car and you're going to go. And then the only physical challenge there is actually like pushing the cart around and then carrying the groceries back up. Like those are the physical challenges, so that just sums it up right there. Like you're gonna need to lift stuff more, and you're gonna need to do a little bit harder physical tasks there. You're never gonna need to run a long ways. So yeah, it's a great little take on it.
Yeah. And it's just completely goal dependent. Sam and I were just discussing before this episode started. We're like, where do we want to take this episode? Do we want to educate on why you should do lifting instead of cardio and push you in the direction of lifting? Or should we keep it open-ended and leave the episode with an it depends at the end? And both of us were kind of pushing it towards that it depends. And why does it depend? It's like, it completely depends on what your goal is in the first place. And most of the time, 80%, 90% of the time, people just want to look good. People just want to be a little healthier. And strength training is a lot better at accomplishing that than cardio.
100%. And I think that's like one of the problems that you see with people in weightlifting is they assume that the weightlifting is all about building muscle, but lifting weights is ultimately about strength, which literally trickles down into benefiting you in everyday life, in everything that you do. So then people are a little bit less inclined to want to do the weightlifting. But yeah, for a beginner perspective, we're not going to leave it open-ended. While there is some goal-oriented stuff involved there, what is going to benefit 99% of people immediately is going to be strength training.
There you go.
Perfect.
Anyways, yeah, you want to close it out? Close it out.
So this was episode 29. This was episode 29. We're losing track of our episodes because we've been putting so many of these out. As always, you can find us on Twitter. Also, if you're listening to this, take a peek into Avalon, the online fitness community, unlike anything else. A lot of good stuff going on there. There's some members who have really been crushing it. For instance, Hal, he's been setting like 40
pound squat PR.
Like 40-pound squat PRs. There's some other people were posting.
Steve set a 20-pound bench PR. He went from 205 to 225.
Yeah, so it's cool. It's cool to get in there. People are posting what their workouts were. They're posting what their meals are, and everybody's firing everybody up. And I think it's kind of raising people's training a little bit. So if you're listening to this and you haven't checked that out, we'll link that in the information on this podcast, and we will talk to you next time.